So, as they say in Congress, I love a moment, a point of personal privilege here, and talk about the congressman who I was fortunate enough to replace, Earl Hutto. Congressman Earl Hutto was a Democrat who proudly served Northwest Florida, Florida 1, from 1978 to 1994. He retired. And I was fortunate enough, as I said, to follow him, succeed him in Congress. And it's interesting that, you know, I'm a country guy. I grew up in Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi and Northwest Florida for the overwhelming part of my life. And I never knew anybody in politics. Earl Hutto was the first guy I ever met in politics. And it's very interesting that the first man I ever met in politics was one of the finest individuals I ever met in politics, with as much integrity, more integrity, than anybody else I would meet in the next quarter century. He was so grounded. He was not only grounded in his love for his wife, but also his children. They were his life. That, along with his faith in Jesus Christ, Earl Hutto was like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. He was the richest guy in town because of what he valued. And here was a guy, by the way, who was extremely powerful by Washington standards. He was a real force on the Armed Services Committee. It's really interesting, though, when I went up to Washington, Earl was a Democrat. I was, of course, a fire-breathing Republican, small government conservative, and Earl was a conservative Democrat. But when we sat down, he was so generous with his time. He was so kind to this young kid who thought he knew a lot more than he actually knew. And he gave me the best advice I received. You know, I'd been going around talking to a lot of Republicans. And all these Republicans would, you know, most of them would be older guys who would start tearing up and tell me not to lose my children. Don't forget. And they'd have sad stories about how they became obsessed with their job. They became obsessed with power. They became obsessed with traveling. They said, don't forget your children. And they all had very sad stories. And these powerful men would start tearing up. When I talked to Congressman Hutto, sat down in his office and he said, son, you got to make a choice. You can travel all over the world and do everything that they want you to do for your committee. You can travel around the country, campaign for everybody, raise money for everybody in your party, or you can raise your kids. You can be a good dad. You could be a good father, you could be a good husband, but you can't do it all. And I asked him, what did he do? He said, I worked hard every day, and then I got in my car, and I did the long commute home, and I made sure I was always there with my family. I was always there with my kids. And the children sent me something talking about Earl. It said, my dad had a successful political career, but I wouldn't say he was much of a politician. To him, politics was not a sport to be won or lost. He truly wanted to serve his constituents, all of them. I never heard him say a bad word about a colleague on either side of the aisle, even Nancy Pelosi, with whom he had little in common. That might make it pretty tough for him to be elected as a conservative today. My mom was his trusted and equal partner in everything he did, and boy, she was. Throughout his career, they treated his congressional staff like family, not people to use to further his own ambitions. Very few people can say they've never seen their father in a bad mood. Very few can say their dads preferred being at home rather than out at social events that might advance their careers. This is Lori saying, when I was in 10th grade, I got to attend President Ronald Reagan's State of the Union address. My dad walked with me to the gallery before heading to the House floor for the speech. I'll never forget him looking up to give me a wave as soon as he got there. It was a thrill for a poor kid from rural Alabama to be in that setting. But no matter where he was, his mind was always on me and my mother and sister, as well as his own siblings. I'm not sure my dad could be elected today with the money and intense polarization that currently characterizes politics, but we've never needed folks like him more than we do now. And to that, I say amen and amen. Our thoughts and prayers are with Nancy and the entire Hutto family. What a great life. And I want to thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.